Hi, I'm Tony Norris. Here we are in downtown Flagstaff, sitting on the balcony of the historic Weatherford Hotel. It's the 4th of July. I never fail to remember my childhood and what a wonderful time the 4th of July was. I always think of a neighbor we used to have when I was a kid. Her name was Mrs. Abernathy. She was a friend of my mother's. And I can still see Mrs. Abernathy coming through the calf pasture, lifting up her long skirts with one hand, and in her other hand she would always have something she was bringing to my mother, a gift. Sometimes a bouquet of flowers, sometimes a jar of preserves from her root cellar, but she would sit on the porch with my mother and they would snap beans and talk about the weather, and I was always the fly on the wall, sitting there listening to Mrs. Abernathy and my mother talk. It was Mrs. Abernathy that told me that because I was a 7th son, I could cure warts. Now, she told me how to take a pinto bean, split it in half, wrap it in a piece of red wool cloth, and rub the wart, and then bury that piece of cloth in the flower bed. She said, come back in 6 weeks and dig up the cloth. If you can't find the cloth, the wart will go away. Now, I was very interested in that knowledge because I had a big wart on my pinky when I was 6 years old. I followed Mrs. Abernathy's instructions to the letter, and as you see, I am wart-free today. But Mrs. Abernathy's true calling was that she was the maker of award-winning apple pies. I don't know if they tasted any better than the other women's apple pies, but they were things of beauty. They were works of art. I have watched at the county fair where Mrs. Abernathy's pies always took first place, and I have seen housewives sidle up to her pies, take out a ruler from their apron pocket, and measure the distance between those little ridges around the edge of her pies and try to figure out how she made such perfect pies. Well, one 4th of July, I knew that Mrs. Abernathy's pies would figure prominently in the cakewalk that they would have at the 4th of July doings. And when the sun came up, 4th of July morning, I was seated on the limb of a big chinaberry tree right outside her window, and I watched as Mrs. Abernathy made her pies, sifted the ingredients, measured them carefully, rolled out her pie dough, laid it in the pie dish, added the apples, very carefully rolled out the lid of the pie, laid it on top, and I was watching as Mrs. Abernathy reached up and took out her false teeth and rolled them around the edge of the pie. I had learned the secret of Mrs. Abernathy's apple pies. Now, I was never able to eat Mrs. Abernathy's apple pies after that. You are the first people I've ever told the secret of Mrs. Abernathy's apple pies. Here it is, 4th of July. I hope you get out there and have a picnic, have a barbecue, cut yourself a big slice of apple pie, and enjoy that most American of holidays, the 4th of July. So until I see you next time, I'm Tony Norris for Flag News. You take care, and we'll see you right here next week. Goodbye.